Today, I'd like to talk about a concept that often gets explored in yoga teacher training programs, but that students are still often left with lots of questions about, and that really deserves a deeper dive. And this is the distinction between the lowercase s self and the uppercase s self. Both tend to create an image of a split, this sense of duality within yourself. The lowercase s self representing all of your thoughts, your emotions, your roles that you play in life, your relationships, your achievements, your resume, your desires, your fears. All of that gets wrapped into who you believe you are in this life. That's the lowercase s. And that's not nothing. That's a lot. That's who you attach yourself and identify yourself as. And so I don't want to diminish that. I feel like that sometimes causes a bit of difficulty in this process, but I'll get to that in just a moment. That's the lowercase s self. The uppercase s self is the higher self, as it is sometimes referred, or the higher consciousness. And this is the aspect of who you are that is not identified with any of that other stuff that I just mentioned. The higher self is not attached to your achievements. It doesn't care about what you ate for breakfast or how many followers you have on Instagram or anything like that, because it is connected to pure consciousness and universal oneness. And so in this yogic view, we have this tremendous gift in this life because we contain both hemispheres of possibility. We are universal consciousness. We are everything expressed through this unique individual form. One of the problems that I see arising a lot over the years in this study and exploration is that people get really attached to their self-perception in relationship to their higher self. And they want to diminish the lowercase s self. They want to eradicate the ego, or then they see any kind of human expression as being faulty or a symbol of brokenness. And when they see that expressed in others, there's a lot of judgment projected outward as well. So we can see the problem that arises in this process. Again, it's not about diminishing the lowercase s self. And it's really difficult as well to navigate between this dance of who you are expressed uniquely. You have a name, you have certain identifying features that you would qualify yourself with. One of my teachers refers to herself as a collection of molecules that we are all just agreeing to call her by her name. So that's what we'll say, right? I'm just this collection of molecules, collection of atoms arising for a little while. We've agreed to call this collection Melissa for now, and then this collection is going to transform and change at some point. Who knows when that will be? And so there is this duality and this interplay between how you see yourself. And there is the capacity and the potential to see yourself as both, not to strive solely for identification with higher consciousness, although glimpsing and experiencing higher consciousness is a blessing. It's a gift. It allows us freedom and spaciousness from the attachments of our lives and all of the swirling emotions that pull us in every single direction. And yet, if we were to absorb ourselves 100% with higher consciousness, there would be no reason left for us to do our work in the world. And so here we are. Now, how do we, though, get a glimpse of higher consciousness, this uppercase S sense of self? Because let's be honest, most of the time, if not all of the time, you are totally enmeshed in your lowercase s self. From the moment you wake up in the morning to the moment you go to sleep at night, you're compelled by your desires, whether that's a desire to get a drink of water because you're thirsty, or a desire to go to work because you have bills to pay, or take care of your family because, you love them and it's important. We move through our lives at a really rapid pace, and most people, especially in modern society, go through their entire life without any awareness that there is the potentiality for this other way of being, where we don't have to be so incredibly encapsulated by these definitions and categories of who we think we are. And yet it can be also incredibly difficult to try to experience that sense of higher consciousness, right? It's not so simple as just becoming aware of it. I heard a teacher once say that. The student asked, well, how can I navigate between this sense of myself with the lowercase s and my sense of self with the uppercase s? And the teacher just really replied simply by saying, once you become aware of pure consciousness, you become aware of it. And the student was dissatisfied with that answer. And frankly, I was in the audience and I was too. And I feel like there are a few techniques that can help to get us to that spaciousness of non-judgmental awareness, of non-attachment. And you might just get there for a moment, and that's beautiful. The journey happens in moments. It's not just one big shebang and the cherubs come down and the harps and the violins start playing and it's like, you've been healed forever. Everything's going to be great from now on. It doesn't work like that. I'm very sorry to say. I wish it did work like that, but it doesn't. So what can we do? Many different things. The 8-limbed path of yoga set forth by Patanjali is one of the most brilliant and methodical, well thought out journeys to get from the lowercase s self to the uppercase s self. And again, remembering that while I just used that phrase journey to get from one state to another state, it is always about being in flux. It's yes and, because we are in this life and you do have a name and you do have relationships and chances are you have responsibilities. And so it's not about denying those or negating those or saying, I'll have to save my spiritual pursuits for when I've got everything on my to-do list checked off. It's about exploring this higher or deeper dimension while you're in the middle of your life, busy and probably a little more than stressed out, but it is possible. And in the 8-limbed path of yoga, for me personally, I have found that the practice of pranayama is incredibly helpful because pranayama really reroutes the busy thinking analytical mind. The busy thinking analytical mind is completely enraptured in your lowercase s self. That's the equipment that we are using throughout our daily lives. But the other dimension of who you are, this other dimension of consciousness exists and permeates beyond just our cognition. And so we can use pranayama as this beautiful tool. The breathwork techniques are in many ways designed to bypass the manomaya kosha, the level of the thinking mind and work into the prana maya kosha, the body, the sheath of subtle life force energy, where there is tremendous wisdom, there is tremendous intelligence. And that intelligence and wisdom can reroute a lot of those habitual patterns that are governed by the thinking mind, the manomaya kosha. And that's one of the reasons why pranayama is such a key technique to really letting go of some of our attachment and having some spaciousness. It's another reason why in the eight-limbed path of yoga, pranayama comes before the stages of concentration and meditation. Because for most of us, it's really challenging to just sit down, close our eyes, and quiet our minds. Our minds are way too crazy for any of that. So, this is why we need specific tools and techniques. And luckily, Patanjali and the thousands of other rishis and sages and great teachers for centuries and centuries before him created this incredible science, this incredible art form of yoga. It is both a science and an art form that is designed to help us navigate this human experience. And this human experience comprised of the individuality of the human, but also the vastness and the universality of the human. So for most of us in the modern world who've been living 99.999% or 100% of our lives in the individual state, it's going to feel a little unfamiliar to start traversing new territory and to stepping into a universal sense of self that is not attached to who you are. But you can get glimpses of it through meditation, through pranayama. And of course, asana, the postures, are a beautiful way to create more ease and freedom in the body so that when we sit and get quiet, we can access those deeper states of awareness without the body kind of waking us back up and shaking us up and getting us back into individuation, right? So I hope that that was helpful to clarify a little bit and explore a little bit the distinction between the lowercase s and the uppercase S self. And of course, when we can relinquish a little bit of our attachment to all that pressure, all of the gripping energy that we bring to ourselves and to the world and to our lives, in that way, we are also stepping toward the uppercase sense of self. Pranayama, meditation, chanting, asana, these are all really profound and beautiful ways to help us along the path. And of course, the great wisdom of the first two limbs in Patanjali's 8 limbs of yoga, the yamas and the niyamas, which start with compassion. Compassion is so key on the path. And it really is that first ingredient, and I would say the most important ingredient. Because if you find yourself criticizing yourself and thinking thoughts like, I should know better at this point in the journey, I shouldn't have reacted that way, I shouldn't be in this state, I should have a stronger meditation practice at this stage in my life, you're actually violating ahimsa at that point. And while it's key to be accountable for ourselves, that's part of the philosophy too. We can be accountable and be kind to ourselves and to others, because as we move toward this experience of being, this experience of recognizing that you are much vaster, much wilder, and more wondrous than just this singular human expression, that you are an expression of the universe itself, we start to recognize that we are truly all one. And sadly, that has become such a cliche, but it's not a cliche. It's a fundamental spiritual truth. And it's truth with the capital T. So, to close, let's take a few moments just to explore within and begin to notice those qualities that arise, those experiences that arise that are representative of the lowercase s self, without judgment, without any kind of analysis or criticism. You can lengthen your spine and close your eyes or soften your gaze for a moment and enjoy a couple of deep breaths. This relationship between our two selves, the individual self as you know yourself in this lifetime, full of wants and fears and needs and aversions, and preferences and memories. We can have so much compassion and so much gratitude for that sense of who you are. And at the same time, I'd like you to anchor into your body. Feel your body, feel your aliveness, feel the outline of your body in space. And now recall a time when you were a child, when your body was very different. Your bones were different. Maybe you were much shorter. Maybe your face looked a little different. Maybe your hair was different. 7-year-old you versus you now. Breathing deeply. And recognizing that even though nearly every single cell of your entire body has changed many times over, there is still a pervading sense of awareness. There's still a pervading consciousness from the you that was 1 year old, 7 years old, 20 years old, now. As all of your tissues, all of your cells have regenerated, cells dying and being reborn every moment, this moment. There is impermanence and permanence just in the physical layer of your body. Notice your thoughts. And take a moment and observe one thought, one belief that you held when you were growing up that you no longer believe. And just be really kind to yourself. Be really sweet and easy. gentle with this practice. You see how the thought rises, that old belief, and it's almost like it's made of sand. It holds no energetic charge for you anymore. And so, even our thoughts that we tend to grip so dearly to, we've had many that we've already let go of in this life. Many beliefs that we've already let go of. And just like the cells, we are renewing. We are renewing. Breathe into the energies of your emotions, just honoring them, not judging them. The emotions you tend to feel, or the emotions you used to feel that you don't experience so much anymore. Maybe you go through seasons, as life does, as nature does. Can you hold loving kindness for your emotions, your thoughts, your body, even though that's not who you really are? You're not your body. You're not your thoughts. You're not your emotions. They are temporary expressions of you, as we refer to the self with the small s. It doesn't mean that it's bad or wrong at all. It's beautiful. It's a gift. It's a blessing. And it's not the whole story. It's just one half of the story of who you are. And could you begin to let your breath deepen? And on every inhale, that expansive quality of the breath allows your perception of yourself to grow a little larger, taking up more spaciousness, embracing the space around you. Until with every breath, with every inhale, your sense of self has gone beyond the boundaries of the walls that surround you, maybe the street that you happen to be on, the town. Just breathing deeply, in and out, exhaling fully, inhaling, letting your sense of self stretch up into the sky, and that clear blue openness, and the stars, and the vastness of space. Let your sense of self drop down simultaneously into the great rooted wisdom of the earth. Can you see yourself expressed there too? In the blades of grass, in the trees, in the flowers, in the soil. In the same materials that make up your body. Can you sense yourself in the stars, burning in the sky above, in the very same materials that are within you? in the space where philosophy and science meet. Carl Sagan famously said that we are star stuff. You are made of star stuff. It's not just poetry. It's also said that there's a good chance that the atoms in your right hand were forged in the furnace of a different star than the atoms in your left hand. And let's bring the palms of the left and right hands together at your heart, lifting your heart to meet your thumbs, anchoring back into this body. This unique expression of the whole, the drop of water is the ocean. Take a deep breath in through the nose and exhale with a big sigh. I hope that this exploration of selfhood was helpful. Namaste.